just my natural self with my wrinkles as is. I'm going to talk a little bit about, I ended up watching the Courtney Clenny interrogation. I'm not going to talk the whole video about that, but I did write down a few little notes. To be honest, I didn't get a lot of information, any new information from the interrogations, because I'd already seen the high points of the interrogation have already been taken, clips have been taken of it and put on other videos. And so, and then the interrogation itself was close to 4 hours, but there was a lot of sections where she was just sitting in the room, like at least an hour and a half worth of footage of her just sitting there waiting for people to come in and ask her questions and talk to her. Oh, excuse me, I think I hear my mother. I might be mistaken. One moment. No. No, that wasn't her. Oh, trying to keep my voice low. I forgot. Let's fiddle with the lighting. So, but I did take a few notes. How does that look? I don't know which is the best lighting for an old lady. Color mode, nah. We're gonna use the non-color mode. I really don't know which is the best. Is that one? Let's see how it looks if I open the window behind me, even though backlighting isn't always the greatest, but let's try that. I don't know how that's gonna look, but all right. But I did, there were two things that stuck. No, that's terrible, sorry. Oh, sorry about that. That does not make it better. Okay. Sorry. Just getting organized. Oh, hi there, viewers. Thank you for coming in. So I took a few notes to see, you know, if there was anything. Now, one thing that I noticed that she seems to need to control. She needs to be in control. She's very insecure when she's not in control in her relationship. I don't know if that's how she is. Probably she's like that maybe outside too. Yeah, you know what? I got the impression she's like that. She has to be in control. Even in the interrogation room, you know, she had to control. She was like trying to control what she could. It's kind of hard to be in control when you're being interrogated at the police office. Hi there, Mr. Cool. Hi. But one thing she said, she actually used those words at one time in their relationship during one of their arguments, because they had many. She claims he took a knife and went into a room and locked the door. And she said, I called the police because I was afraid he locked the door and that he would do something that I couldn't control. You know, it was an interesting choice of words that she used, I thought, because I was afraid he was going to hurt himself would be what comes to mind. But her exact words were, and I was afraid he was in there doing something that I couldn't control, or something to that effect. She said it in the interview. So just the words were strange to me. So it seems that the fights got out of control. There's me using the word. When she couldn't control him. She wanted him to do exactly what she wanted. Like she even said, you know, on the day that he was killed, he went to Subway and I told him exactly what I wanted, and I told him I would text him exactly, and he got it exactly right. You know, very, very OCD with her control of the man. So that can be toxic. She claims that he also would sometimes in the fights, there are no videos of that. There are only videos of her. Now, that doesn't mean it didn't happen, but we just don't have any videos of him hitting her or assaulting her. But there was a witness. I didn't learn that in the interrogation. I learned that from one of the many shows that I've been binge watching on the topic. But there was a witness that said he did see from across the apartment buildings. They were in front of each other, and one of the inhabitants of the other apartment building was right across from their apartment building and could see in the window. And he said that he saw him flailing his arms at what he assumed was her. He only saw him flailing his arms, like hitting or pushing or something. So there is a witness that witnesses something which would appear that he was also violent with her. But you know, she said that he was a gaslighter, that he would gaslight her a lot, and that is a form of abuse. And it is a way to get. There's a dynamic. I, not to put my personal twist on it, but in my marriage, when I was married, my husband would be a gaslight. We would verbally fight a lot, especially in the earlier days. And I would lose my cool and start screaming my lungs out because he would do something that, and I was a lot younger. I wouldn't do that today. Today I would just turn around and walk away. But he would gaslight me and it would drive me crazy. And then I would lose it and I would start yelling and screaming. Now that's not to say, it takes two to tango. So I'm not going to say he was a horrible husband. But so I could imagine if she's such a controlling person, he knows her personality. Maybe that was one of his tricks when they were arguing. That doesn't mean she has to go and stab him or whatever happened but the fight started with, they had a fight and she said, "I'm done with you, I'm breaking up." So that was a week before the event. And the occurrence, I shouldn't call it an event, more of the unfortunate occurrence. So they had unfollowed each other on Google Share or on the Share app where they can follow each other. You do that when you're in a relationship. You want to know where your significant other is, so you follow each other on a location sharing device. So Google is the one that comes to mind, but I think there are other ways. So they had unfollowed each other, so they didn't know where each other was. And so apparently the fight started over that they had unfollowed each other, and then why aren't you following me now that we're back together? You should be following me again. And I think either he or she didn't do it fast enough for the other one's taste. Like they said, "Okay, I will." I think it was he had not let her see his, no, she says the fight started because he said, "Okay, I've shown you my location, now go ahead and turn yours on." And then she said some comment that made him angry about the sharing, and it escalated from there. Usually these fights start with something insignificant, especially when you're young. They were only in their 20s, which, I'm almost 60, so I have a whole lot of mistakes in hindsight that, but when I was in my 20s, I would flip off a lot quicker than I do now. But anyway, she claims that at one point he pinned her to the floor in that argument. It escalated, he pinned her to the floor, and that she got scared because he'd done it in the past where he choked her or had put his hands around her neck. And so she went to call her mother. She called her mother and she took a knife from the kitchen because she was scared, and she just wanted to scare him with it, she says. So yeah. And so then at one point she was still on the phone with her mother and he came towards her, apparently. Now this is all what she's saying, I'm only repeating. And so then she at one point flung the knife at him. So she flung the knife at him. She says she didn't stab him. But her story just doesn't add up because, I mean, it could be that when it happened and from the shock of what was happening and the blood, maybe she kind of zonked out and it's all a blur. She says, it's all a blur to me, but she doesn't remember. But see, if the knife was in him and it was 3 inches deep into his, some area around here, where there's a very, apparently in there, I don't know much about anatomy, but it cut into an artery or some vessel there that exudes a lot of blood. So I'm trying to keep my voice down. I'm getting too agitated. But then why was the knife not still in there? It hit him and then bounced out, but it was 3 inches deep, so it should have been in there. So she says, oh, I don't know what happened. Maybe he took it out. But right there, the story doesn't sound like she flung it at him. And then some of the experts say that would be impossible because it was in a downward motion. So it seems she stabbed him when he was higher up, when she was higher up than him, and it was in a downward motion. But anyway, her story is what it is. And so now there's going to be evidence introduced from both sides to try to prove or disprove that story. But that part just doesn't make sense to me because, okay, maybe, but in that moment where you either throw a knife, you're going to be watching to see what happens. So how come she doesn't remember what happened, whether he pulled it out or if it somehow stabbed him 3 inches deep and fell out again, which doesn't sound feasible. I'm not an expert, but and she claims she was about 10 or more feet away from him when she flung the knife, but that he was charging towards her. That's all going to come out in the trial. I won't spend too much time on that. And at one point, she said, during the interview, that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. She says, oh my gosh, there must be blood all over that white couch. I mean, granted, one doesn't know how you're going to react when you're in despair or in a moment of high tension. But she said that rubbed me the wrong way. That she said that she didn't have very many bruises. She had a bruise on her arm. They took pictures of her during the interrogation. I think she had one bruise on her arm, but there were no bruises around her neck or anywhere else where if he would have pinned her down, you'd assume the pressure from his just sheer force. He's a large man, larger than her man. He would have left more bruises on her somehow. Even if he didn't hit her, but if he held her down or pinned her down, as she says. So, she didn't have bruises. And then at another part, she says, if he's not okay, that's worse for me. But if he's not okay, that's worse for everybody. Just some of the stuff she said didn't really make sense. And I didn't take too many notes after all, because the parts of the interview that were more poignant, that would be of interest to the people, have already been shared on social media and all the coverage that's already out on the trial. So I don't have anything new to add to that. But so it's all going to come out in the trial, which starts December 1st. And I'm planning to watch it if I can on Court TV. I think we're able to watch it with commercials. If you want to watch the interrogation, it's on my Twitch channel still. Twitch has a thing where if you don't highlight, and I'm not going to highlight the interrogation, I think in 2 or 3 weeks it disappears from Twitch. But it's still on there now, and the benefit of watching it on my Twitch channel, you could also watch it directly from Law and Crime is the one I got it from. I skipped through all the commercials, so you don't have to sit there skipping through the commercials, because there are, like every 10 or 15 minutes, there's a commercial, so it gets rather annoying. But so if you watch it on my Twitch channel, I've condensed it down to just the parts where she's actually talking I skipped through the parts where she's sitting just there, um, where there's nobody in the office. Although you can sometimes watch the parts where nobody's interrogating her and see what she does, but I didn't do that because it was like 4 hours long, over 4 hours long. So it's condensed now to about 2.5 hours of just the parts where she's actually being interrogated or where there are people in the room. And I skipped through the commercials. You'll get like the first little bit of a commercial, but you won't have to skip it because I've skipped it for you. So my Twitch handle, if you're interested in, because I will be doing it on Twitch, viewing the trial live on Twitch. I'll be viewing it and streaming it to Twitch. My handle on Twitch is difficult_unit. And then I may come on YouTube also and give my little takes each day of the trial and try to be like some of these channels. There's one channel I love. It's called Tisa Tells. She covers trials and real crime stories and things. And I'm hoping she's going to also cover the Courtney Clenny trial. I put a comment on one of her videos. I asked her, "Are you going to be covering the Courtney Clenny murder trial?" Hopefully, if she wasn't planning to, that might spark her to do so. So that's well, one thing I wanted to talk about. Another thing I wanted to bring up, those of you who like ASMR, this is not an ASMR channel, but some people tell me that it's sometimes accidentally ASMR when I remember to keep my voice low, which I forget to do. There's a channel called Narita Joy. She's a cosmetologist. She's an esthetician. And she does facials, and her facials are so beautiful. Nerida Joy on YouTube. I would suggest you go to her channel. This is nothing to do with my previous topic. I'm skipping to a new topic. Nerida, and her last name is Joy, Joy. She's an esthetician, and just go to her channels and see if it gives you ASMR, because she has a very soft voice, and while she's doing the facials, she's talking about what she's doing, and she talks about the different conditions of the skin. She says, well, this client has surface dryness with melasma and some ruddiness on the surface, and she just uses these terminologies that have to do with cosmetology, and she talks about the different creams and what's inside the creams. And so I would suggest you try that channel and then come back and tell me how you liked it. But I think that I'm someone who doesn't experience the tingles that people talk about, so I have no idea what it is. But I've been told that some of my videos, when I remember to keep my voice low, produce that. So I would assume she would be very good at that. And plus the patient is just sleeping there, the model, she calls them. Today's model, her name is Claudia, for example, and her skin has this condition, or sometimes it's oily skin and she does an oily skin treatment. So each week or now she hasn't done a new video in a while, but she has a lot of videos there still up from years ago. So you have many years of videos that you could watch. If anybody has seen her, post in the chat. Narita Joy. Another one, Mondragon Chiropractic. She's a chiropractic. Mondragon, M-O-N, dragon, like the animal, the dragon. Mondragon, that's her last name. Chiropractic. You look her up too. She does chiropractic videos, but she also talks through the video and talks to the patient, and she does something called gua sha, which some may not find interesting. I love watching when she does gua sha on the person's back. It's called scraping. Sometimes she calls it scraping, and she just lightly scrapes the person's back, but very lightly. But it will sometimes cause a bruising, like with the, well, I won't describe it because some may not find that fun, but it does cause the blood to come to the surface, and it causes what's called petechiae. So it doesn't come out. There's no blood, coming out. The back gets very irritated, but supposedly it's drawing out the impurities in the blood. So while she's talking, she's explaining, but that's not all she does. She does the bone cracking, and she does other things too. And she talks about what she's doing, which I think is what people find produces the ASMR effect. And who's the other one? Oh, and any acrylic nail videos, they also relax me when I watch acrylic nails being put on, and then the whole process. I have gel nails on, by the way. I've been having my nails done more recently than I usually don't. Okay, so that's my video for today. I don't really, unless anyone has any questions. Oh, thank you, Whispering Canadian. Yeah, I've been told that when I remember not to start getting all agitated, because I sometimes get overexcited when I'm talking, especially if it's a topic that I'm really into. Like, I don't know if it's a sort of morbid, but I'm really into the Courtney Clenny trial. Miami OnlyFans model, too attractive couple, everything going their way, apparent from the outside looking in, if you don't know what was behind the scenes. Now we find, obviously, it wasn't. And the family of Christian Abumseli is suing for wrongful death. They're also doing a civil suit against Courtney Clenny, against the security company of the apartment building, and against the apartment building themselves, the management of the apartment building. They said, they all had a part in the wrongful death of their son, which, my heart goes out to the family, to lose their son that way. And such a toxic relationship. They should have broken up. I mean, of course, hindsight is 20/20, but those love-hate relationships where it's love and then it's, my marriage was a little bit like that in the beginning, and then I think we both mutually, but it was mostly me, decided enough. Love-hate is not love. Love-hate is love-hate, and it gets very toxic. And that's the kind of, although theirs was much more, much worse than mine was, we never got to the point where we physically hurt each other, but verbally we were very abusive to each other. And now I wish him the best, and he wishes me the best. Now that we're away from it, we both recognize that it wasn't right. And, or at least that's what I think. I haven't spoken to him in a while, but he's in another relationship, and, anyway, not to bring my situation into it, but I can relate in very small way to that relationship. But I have to be careful not to impose my views on their relationship, because I know nothing about their relationship other than what's been shown on the TV and on the videos. Mainly I've been watching YouTube videos of different programs that cover real crime issues. So, yeah, I agree. Oh, okay. Somebody just walked in, so I'm on the phone. Sometimes my father's deaf, so he doesn't always hear that I'm on the phone. He doesn't always know what I'm doing. He may think I'm watching a video or something, because I do sometimes put it on the Ring Cam and just watch videos, because it's comfortable. You just lay down and the phone is right there. All right. I have nothing more to talk about then, but thank you for stopping in. And those of you who didn't catch the live will catch the rerun when it's up. Okay, thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.